Okay, welcome to the Gift of Gabs. This
Thank
is
you.
my guest today, Kerry Riley. So, Kerry, tell us like who you are and the name of your business.
Yes, my name is Kerry Riley, and I am the owner of Red Fire Prairie Consulting LLC. Basically, what we do is a lot of website development, small business development as well, that kind of thing. So,
Okay, so we've known each other a long time. Let's first talk about that a little bit about how we met. What I thought maybe we could do is tell me your version of it, and I'll tell you mine, and we'll see if see if we had the same impression.
okay, yeah. Well, we met back in probably 1993 at Chadron, Nebraska, Chadron State College. You were my selling techniques professor. Um, I think it was selling techniques or something along those
Yeah,
lines, sales class. And we hit it off pretty well. I liked your teaching style, and you were really easy to talk to and just a really good person to get a lot of information from and learn new things that I needed to know that interested me for sure. So after that, we just kind of kept in contact and developed a little bit of a business of our own that we had for a little while together, and just kind of kept in touch throughout the years and kind of helped each other out here and there with different business type of aspects of things. So
yeah.
um, yeah.
I'll tell you how weird this comes off really strange, but this is how I remember students, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, but the way I remember it is that the class had kind of a U-shaped setting for the chairs,
Yep.
and I was in the middle, and you were on my right side,
Hmm.
and I think you were with your husband at the time, and you guys were in the second and third seat from the
Yep.
front of the room, and
Yep.
so there's a lot of times a lot of students that I had that I don't always remember their name, but I remember where they sat in my class.
Uh-huh.
And because people tend to sort of sit in the same spot every day,
Right.
once they pick a spot. But I remember the first thing because I always ask the students to tell me something about themselves, and I remember you talking about working for a pet store uh, in Chadron. I think you were working for them while you were going to school,
Yep.
and it was the cat house. Is that
Yep.
what it was? Okay.
Katie's Cat House. That is
Yeah,
correct.
yeah, that's what I thought. So your bachelor's degree then is in what? Is
I have a double bachelor's management and marketing and
okay.
almost a minor in econ. So one
Oh,
class
wow.
away. Yeah, my dad called and told me it was time to graduate. I was on the 5 year plan.
Oh, were you there five?
Almost five, but that's when he called and said it's time to graduate. So
Yeah.
I just did. So
Because when I came back, I had been gone for 2 years, and I came back
hmm.
that semester. So I was probably only there your last year. I had been
Yeah.
gone to Southern Illinois for 2 years,
Yeah.
and Wendy Waugh was filling in for me. And Wendy Waugh is actually now the vice president of at Peru State.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah, she just started there January. She was at Wesleyan. So so we want to get into the business a little bit, but tell me a little more of your sort of background, like how you got there. Because you said that you and I had done some consulting stuff together a long time ago, but
Yeah.
you what were the other kinds of jobs or what else have you done?
I've done a lot of technical type of jobs. I've worked for a town, a business here in town. It was Mac Practice, basically, using medical software that they had programmed, put together, and we worked on getting the, KIs or known issues, bugs that you basically
Mhm.
don't ever tell the customers like, that you have a bug in your software. It's a known issue. And we would remote into their, computers, and I kind of learned a lot about EDI, and code and things along those lines,
Mhm.
MySQL. So that led me to learning a lot more about code and coding, JavaScript, cascading style sheets, HTML. And as it's been evolving throughout time as well, all of that.
Right.
So I've kind of kept up with it and made quite a few of my own templates and things along those lines. Really didn't get a lot of experience anywhere else except for at a cybersecurity company that I also worked for here in Lincoln. We did a hackathon, and it was called for ethical hacking. What you do is you get through people's firewalls and you try to they're called pen tests. And what you do is try to penetrate their firewalls. And the first person to get
Oh,
through got $5,000. So it was pretty fun. A worthy challenge. So
yeah,
it was I just basically got myself in tune with the people that were like me, I guess computer geeks. And that's what I hang
yeah.
around, are the geeky type of people. And we love to talk geeky things.
I have never heard ethical hacking.
Yeah.
Is that their term for it, or is that a common?
It's a common term, actually. What they do is there are companies that will hire you to see just how weak their network is. And
Oh,
if you
yeah.
could, yeah, sometimes it's pretty easy to get in because they don't have the proper firewalls or the proper configuration of said firewalls. So yeah,
Okay.
you can get in pretty easily.
I watch a lot of movies, and it sort of reminds me of in the Italian Job. Did you
Yeah.
Charlize Theron's job where she was a safe cracker and she would break into companies would hire her to break into their safe to see if she could get in.
Yeah. Same thing.
So
Yeah.
kind of like that.
Yeah. Same
Uh,
thing.
it's kind of unusual for someone in marketing though I mean, I don't, I guess it's more likely for marketing people to do what you're doing than the other way around because maybe this is stereotype and I might be wrong, but I feel like coders typically aren't outgoing marketer kind of people.
Right. I'm kind of an introverted extrovert.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
like an introverted extrovert for sure because I know when I can be extroverted and I need to be, but most of the time I'm fairly introverted.
So what do you like about the graphic design? Is your consulting strictly focused on graphic design?
No, actually it's not. I like to do a little bit of consulting as far as that goes with culture in the workplace because sometimes there are some toxic cultures out there and a lot of times their corporations don't know how to fix it or small businesses don't know how to fix it, because they're just small businesses and they don't have
Right.
the courage to step up, and it takes a consultant to come in and say, hey, this is how we need to do it and this is what, we need to find out what's going on. Employee improvement programs for a small business when they don't have the wherewithal to say to this employee, this is what we need to do to improve.
Mhm.
Those types of things. I like to get into the holistic side of it as well.
Yeah, that seems to fit that part of it seems to fit your degree.
Yeah,
And this other part was sort of self-taught, I'm assuming.
it is. Yeah, I did not
Graphic.
get a degree in this. I just
Yeah.
taught myself.
So what is it about graphic design that made you go that way?
I think it is the fact that I can put together lines of code and hit the enter bar and hit enter code and then boom, and then it works. And it's so fascinating to me that I did all of that and it works just perfectly. And I can make variables and those variables make it do different things. And to me, that is just shocking that it works so well and that it's ever changing. I like that it doesn't stay static. I like things that keep changing.
Yeah. So did you learn it through books? Did you take a class or?
I look at a lot of things online. There are a lot of resources online like Stack Overflow and Zero to Mastery Academy is a good place to look to for a lot of these kind of things. But Stack Overflow, there's tons of resources online where you can self-teach. Tons.
Yeah, it's gonna sound weird coming from someone who was a college professor for 40 years. But do you feel like, to me, it almost feels like we're at a point where college degree isn't quite as critical as it used to
Exactly.
be. Like you can teach yourself things, and as long as you can prove you have your skill set. I mean, the degree, I'm not saying people shouldn't get one, but I'm
Right.
just saying that it's not like the be all end all that it might have been 30 years ago.
Oh,
Uh,
I agree completely with that. Yeah.
because
I
I feel like you can learn a lot of things like you just talked about going to online sources
mhm,
and companies. I mean, if you're and you're not in this position because you're working for yourself, but companies once you're there and prove you can do the job, I don't think they care where you went to school or maybe
right,
if you went to school, uh, as long as
right.
you can do the job.
Well,
Uh,
and if you have a very good portfolio as well that proves that you put that all together,
yeah,
that's as good as a college degree for a lot of places.
right. See, and I didn't think about it that way. I guess I'm more thinking resumes from business school grads and but a
Yeah.
portfolio makes sense for graphic design or any kind of artist.
Oh,
Uh,
my, yeah, definitely. And in my field, if you can put together to say that, you can do, if you're say a full stack developer like myself, and you can say that I know all of these computer languages, you can show them your portfolio and discuss all of the different languages in depth, and you can prove, yes, I do know this, and I did not get a degree in it. I self-taught.
yeah, yeah.
So
So
yeah, I didn't
when you
require
go
that.
out, I'm kind of running off script a little bit, but when you go out to a client or a potential client, are you taking a laptop, an iPad, or something to show your samples?
I do take a laptop, but I generally don't show them anything that is a previous client unless I have written permission.
Oh, okay, okay.
Because a lot of clients want to keep those kind of things
Yeah,
proprietary.
yeah, yeah, I can see that.
Even
I,
though they're a web presence, they still want to keep it proprietary because a
I,
lot of people want to see the code and they can't see that.
I know we ran into that a little bit when I was in Kansas City. I worked with a guy named David Jewell that was
Hmm.
owned an ad agency, and
Yeah.
we did some stuff for him. Um, but he was kind of in the same boat. I think, he could show maybe some print ads that they had done, but he also was talking to the client before, taking those out as part of his portfolio and stuff. Uh,
Yeah.
so tell me, well, I guess I didn't ask you, how long have you had this company?
The company was formed in April of 2022, so it's only been for a couple of years that the company's been official. I was doing things on the side before that without the company, just on a personal basis. So
Okay.
yeah, so it's only been a couple of years, but it's really been a good learning experience.
So how do you find clients?
I like to go to various places, like say I like to go into Barnes and Noble and go to the section where people look up different
Huh,
things about building a website or Excel or Word or something like that. And you approach them and you go, you'll hear them mumbling to themselves about, I don't know, the first thing about building a website. And then I'll be like, well, hey, you know what? I build websites for a living. Is there anything that you have a question about? And then
right.
it turns into, well, hey, maybe I can help you out.
Yeah, it's surprising if you just talk to people
Yeah.
how many contacts you can make.
Oh,
I
most definitely.
I don't like to sit around a lot, so I drive some on Lyft. And
Uh-huh.
I'm amazed how many people I've met on Lyft, and three of them are going to be on the show uh, at some point, and they were, strangers when they got in my car. Uh,
Right.
but if you just talk to them, kind of, I don't talk about it with everybody that gets in the car, but a lot
Yeah.
of them I do. Tell them what we're trying to do and find out a little bit about their background. I actually met a lady last week that uh, had a Super Bowl shirt on, and we started talking about football. And she's going to come on. She has a football podcast, and she used to write a column. I don't know if she still does, but she said she used to write for USA Today, and is working at Huddle now. So
Very
uh,
nice.
that little 15-minute ride found me another guest, and so
That's
uh,
great.
and she was pretty interesting. Um, so tell me what's the best thing? I guess the best thing about I was gonna say the best thing about the graphic design business. What maybe combine that with just having your own business? What's the best thing about it?
The best thing about it is that no two sites are alike, even though they may have the same framework, no two sites or no two businesses ever function in the same fashion. They may have the same type of framework or if you know, since you know a lot about cars, the same kind of chassis, but
Right.
everything's unique. Everybody is unique and I get to experience everybody on a different level and it's very exciting to me. I enjoy that immensely.
Yeah. I I see myself on camera and I feel like I'm looking down a lot, but I'm looking at you on my screen and it makes it look like I'm looking down.
You're
Uh
not.
but yeah, I get what you're saying about that they have a lot of commonalities. Though the thing I don't like, and I guess I didn't mention you did our website. Um
Mhm,
and what they have all those platforms where you can sort of go design your own website where you
mhm.
use templates and stuff. But whenever I go onto a site, seems like you can tell that that's what they did. And
Yeah,
it just doesn't look the same to me. Not that it's bad. And,
no,
because it's a way for people to get online and get their site up. It just, to me,
yeah,
it's like when you drive into a new neighborhood in Lincoln and every house looks the same.
exactly. Yep.
That's kind of what it feels like when I go. I
Yeah.
mean, I sort of like the old neighborhoods or the older parts of town where every house is a little different and
Yep.
different colors. And I get in those neighborhoods. Like when I first got out of college, I went to Dallas, and for a while I stayed with my uncle, and he lived in a cul-de-sac, and all the houses looked alike. And one day when I was coming back to his house, I pulled in the driveway, walked into the house, and realized that I was in the next door neighbor's house, and they were having dinner. So I had to back out and turn off the driveway. So what's the worst part of it? Maybe
Um,
worst part of having your own business or worst part of the graphic design thing.
the learning curve, basically, I think getting what you need out of the client, because sometimes the client doesn't know what they need exactly, even though you know pretty much what they need. They don't know until they know. You
Right.
really have the discovery phase is the hardest part, and then getting it out there for them, and then they finally go, "Oh, that's what I was wanting. Okay, now this is
Yeah.
what I need." And then you have to change everything all over again anyway. So that's the hardest part because you'll get it out there and you'll say, "Well, this is what you told me," and they're like, "Well, this is what I meant." That's kind
Right.
of the hardest part of the whole thing.
Because they might have it in their head, but not seeing it on screen or on paper or whatever.
Right. Their level of clarity with it is a little bit different than my vision or vision, so it
Yeah.
all works out in the end, but and sometimes we're on the same page, but not all the time. So it just depends.
Right.
That's probably
Yeah.
the
And
most
I think
difficult.
I think it was kind of that way with ours. I mean, I wasn't sure where to go exactly. And I'm
Yeah,
sure we'll probably modify things along the way. And
almost
my
definitely.
main concern with the website is ours. We're not selling merchandise,
Nope.
at least not now. Uh, so my main thing is, put our YouTube channel up there and our Instagram and Twitter, and I still call it Twitter, uh,
Yeah, instead of
even
X.
though Elon's kind of screwing it up. But I still think of it that way, and I think most people still do.
Yeah, I
But
do.
yeah, I can see that. It's sort of. I feel like you're kind of in almost a teaching position when you're putting those together. That because every
Yeah.
class that I walked into, well, I shouldn't say every class, because at Shannon State a lot of classes were mostly the same students because we didn't have
Oh,
5 marketing professors, but uh, but every class was different, and you kind of feel it out the first week or two and figure
yeah.
out what works for people and what doesn't work, and I think you just have to be flexible enough. So what about when I was a kid in high school, I worked in a grocery store, and the owners of the grocery store would say things like, well, the customer's always right and stuff like that. Did you,
Yeah.
and I used to tell marketing classes they're always right, even when they're wrong.
Mhm.
And you just have to convince them. But do you get any of that where you feel like people are asking for things that you can't do, or things that you know could be done better than the way they're talking about it?
Yeah, I do get quite a bit of that, but I do work with them on that in that I don't try to convince them that there's a better way to do it. I just
Right.
do it the better way, and they really do eventually see that, oh wow,
Yeah.
I guess that
Yeah,
really,
I think that's what I was getting at was that do you kind of have to show them sometimes what works
yeah,
better because they don't necessarily know.
yeah, you really do.
If if you were talking to somebody, say that's 20 years old or 22 years old coming out of college or something, and they wanted to start their own business, what do you have advice for them?
The advice I would give them is to make sure that you have a solid vision for what you want to do, where you want to go, and how you're going to accomplish it. You have to make sure that you know where you're headed and how you're going to get there. You can't just get up one day and go, oh, I'm going to have my own business. It doesn't
Right,
work that way. There has to be a solid vision, and that's why we have business plans. And that's why you get very serious about those kinds of things.
right.
You need to know, and you need to understand your customers, your customer base. You need to understand a lot of that. It's very important. So being young, you have that opportunity to explore all sorts of avenues, and everything with AI is opening up. There's a lot of things happening in the world in this day and age. So many different directions you can take things. So, I would just say basically leave yourself open to move any direction at any time.
Yeah, I used to, when we would do marketing consulting, I used to try to emphasize to people that you got to figure out who your customer is
Yep.
first. And then you can figure out are there enough of them to make
Right.
this work? And then what you were talking about, having a direction or a plan. Uh,
Yep.
this is kind of a good example of it. I did a little introduction show, like a 5 or 10 minute thing, just to tell people, how this came about and where we wanted to go with it. And it was sort of that way here. I didn't really have a lot of direction for a while, and my
Mm-hmm.
initial idea for doing a show was 6 years ago, and nothing really happened from it uh,
Mm-hmm.
until really my girlfriend sort of came up with this concept. Um, I was going more in the direction of a golf show, and I like this idea better because we're going to bring in business people and artists and
Mm-hmm.
athletes from all out of sports, and so yeah, I think that's pretty good advice.
Yeah.
Though I don't know if you're up for this or not, but my idea was to end all of these with what I call the fun five.
All
Uh,
right.
just 5 questions. They're sort of a little bit random, but just off the top of your head, if you want to give me a little bit of feedback. So
Yeah.
the first one says if you could spend a day with anybody, living or dead, who would it be and why?
Oh my goodness. If I could spend a day with anybody living or dead, who would it be and why? Come back to that one. I'm gonna think
Okay.
about
I
that.
was gonna say, I'm hoping it's not Steve Jobs because he yelled at you.
It would be Steve Jobs. Honestly, it would be Steve Jobs, to be very, very honest with you, because he's who I did my dissertation on when I got my MBA.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I did my dissertation on Steve Jobs.
So you did it as a biography, or what did you do? Or
I did it as a biography pretty much, and I set my position as he was one of the greatest minds in history as far as technology was concerned. And argue me on that one, really. He
yeah,
he absolutely revolutionized technology as we know it. And I would absolutely love to sit and pick that man's brain. And I know he would probably love to yell at me, but I would love to pick his brain. He was such an intelligent man.
I'm trying to remember the name of the book, and I can't. It's not coming to me off the top of my head, but there was a book that I read a few years ago that talked about sort of some of those sort of breakthrough leaders or
Mhm.
innovators. A lot of it had to do with the timing of when they were born. And he talked about, in the book, he talked about Bill Gates and Steve Jobs and oh God, what's the other guy's name? Bill. The other guy that he talks about is the guy that invented the code that is the basis of the internet.
Oh, yeah, I can't remember his last name, but
But
no, yeah, he
they were born about 12 months apart, the three
hmm
of them, and they
Yep.
just happened to be in the right place at the right time. Like Bill Gates happened to be in high school and meet Paul Allen, I think, who was a programmer
Yep.
and got him into programming and got him computer time. And the guy that invented the internet was a University of Michigan student, and they were one of the few schools that had a computer
Yep.
lab that people could go to. And you had only a limited amount of time in the lab, but he figured out how to rig his card, the code, so that it would just give him unlimited access, and he would be in there
Yeah.
coding all day.
Yeah, and he came up with HTML. Amazing.
And so I think there's a lot to that. I think a lot of it is right time, right place, but also, I mean, obviously they had the gift of, to
Oh yeah,
do what they're doing.
absolutely. They had
Because it
that
sort of
vision.
has to coincide with, you have to be there when the computer business is ready to blow up or you have to
Yep.
be there when the internet's ready to blow up or all these businesses on YouTube and stuff
Yep.
like that. Although I don't know that that's going to slow down very much because that seems to be the way
Yeah,
to,
it's
right?
really picking up, especially with AI right now. This is one
Yeah.
of those turning points. I think we're at that precipice right now. So
So I'm gonna veer off for a second. What's your opinion of AI? You think it's a good thing, bad thing, or
I think it's a very good thing that's highly dangerous.
yeah, yeah, and it's sort of like Einstein helping invent nuclear power, but
Yeah,
get a bomb out of it at the same time. So I
exactly.
don't. College professors, I think, look at AI a little leery because
Yeah.
people could just have AI write a paper for them, or
Oh
something
yeah,
like that.
and it's undetectable.
Hmm. Okay, second question. If you could be any animal, what would you be?
I would be a horse.
I wasn't expecting that. Why horse?
Well, I used to be a barrel racer, so I've
Oh, I
always,
know.
yeah, I've ridden horses. I used to, when I was 13 and 14 years old, I'd drive myself to Cheyenne, Wyoming and ride in the rodeo. And
Oh, wow.
I used to barrel race when I was up until I was about till I went to, even when I was in Chadron, I was barrel racing and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
I would be a horse because the amount of power and freedom that you have and just the majesty of that animal is unbelievable. So I would be a horse.
My ex-wife, I mean, we were divorced 20 years ago. We're still friends, but she
Mary,
was, she was a barrel racer.
was she? I didn't know she
Yeah,
was.
yeah. She had horses growing up her whole life. So and while you're bringing up horse, I'll put in a plug for a future show that's coming up. I have two women in Kansas City that own a horse rescue, a not-for-profit horse rescue, and we're going to do um, a show with them to talk about what it is and how they got into it and
Oh,
how
that's
they
great.
find them. So actually, we're doing that. We're shooting that next weekend. So
Good.
that'll
I
be
look forward to that one.
third question. What's the most interesting place you've ever visited or want to visit?
The most interesting place I've visited would be the Stanley Hotel in Estes Park, Colorado.
Miss Stanley.
Yes, because it truly is haunted. I was in bed in the middle of the night with my boyfriend at the time, and I heard the bathroom light turn on, and it turned on, and the door shut, and I looked over, and he was right beside me in bed, and the light was on, and then suddenly I heard the toilet flush, and nobody walked out. The door opened, nobody walked out of there. He was still beside me. I had my hand on him, and the light didn't shut off or anything, but the door shut. It was great.
Well, after we're done, I got a story I can tell you about the Stanley Hotel, but
Okay.
it involves a friend of mine, so I don't want to throw it out there
Yeah,
on camera. Okay, if you had to eat one food every day for the rest of your life, what would you eat? That's the only thing you could eat, but you had to have it at least once a day.
sushi.
Sushi?
Yes.
I never had sushi.
Oh, it's so good. You're missing out.
Everybody tells me that. I am allergic to shellfish. I don't
Well,
know
you probably shouldn't eat it then.
if that matters, but sushi just no, not all sushi is raw though, right? I mean,
Correct.
okay, because the raw one, that's why I always thought I don't know if I could do sushi,
Oh
but
yeah, I
if
get a lot of
it's
cooked rolls.
cooked, yeah.
Yeah.
And they probably have stuff that's not shellfish, but
Oh yeah,
I don't know
definitely.
that for sure.
Yeah.
There's a couple good sushi places in Lincoln.
Blue sushi is the
Yeah,
best down in the
yeah.
Haymarket.
And I think Blue is a franchise or something.
Yeah, they have one up. They have Baby Blue up in Omaha, but
Yeah.
otherwise, no, I don't think
I
they sell
thought
it.
they were based in Ohio, but I don't know that for sure.
I don't know.
Last question, and we can wrap this up is if you could start a rumor about yourself, what would it be?
If I could start a rumor, um, if I could start a rumor, I'm dating Sir Nicholas Cage. I have nothing better to come up with.
That might be.
It's because of that movie that got me back in love with him, of The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. Have you seen that
I
movie with
haven't
him?
seen that. I haven't seen that.
You
I
need
just
to
think of
see it.
National Treasure when I think of Nicolas Cage.
Yeah, you need to see it because he honestly looked like he'd lost his way because he was acting in every movie that was out there known to man.
Yeah.
But The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent brought it back to where Nick Cage belonged.
So
So
it was a movie. It wasn't about him.
yeah, it's a movie with him in it, but it's about him. But it's
Oh,
not
it
about,
because it almost sounds like a documentary kind of
yeah, it's
title.
not. It's an actual movie. It's
Uh,
great. You will
Okay.
love it.
Well, I appreciate your time. This
Well,
is
thank you for having me.
yeah. I do have. I'll confess I do have 3 or 4 former students lined up. Just be good to talk to them again, and some of them I keep in touch with anyway.
That's
But
great.
the coolest part of my job I felt like was, and this is probably not a lot of people for doing it for 40 years, but I have about 150 students that keep in touch, and from back when you were going, early
Uh-huh.
90s up to the last year or two. So, and that's
That's
pretty cool. Get to see how some of them, how they've done in their career and
yeah,
sort of watch them. But we'll wrap this up and I will
that's
let you
great.
go.
Sounds great. Thank
Thanks
you.
again. Yeah, we'll get this. I'll try to get this posted and put it up in the next week or week and a half. So
Sounds
thanks,
good.
Carrie.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye.
Bye.